What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are one day through OTAs. The first time we got to see, well, pretty much the whole band back together with two new quarterbacks leading the way. We head to day 2 of OTAs today, and already plenty to talk about. Justin Fields has made it known that this is a quarterback competition. This is not I'm coming in here and sitting behind Russell Wilson, but instead I'm trying to beat out Russell Wilson. Brings up a lot of questions for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Meanwhile, one star that has some contract concerns did show up. Another one who has some contract concerns did not show up. We'll dive into that. And then obviously day 1 takeaways and what we're looking for as we head back to the South Side. Yesterday was a beautiful day in the Burgh. Today's a beautiful day in the Burgh. It was one of those you're standing there sweating types of days. It was cool to see really everybody from Troy Polamalu, Byron Leftwich, Casey Hampton walked in. I lost my mind for a second because I was like, man, this is that's a stud who used to be 400 pounds. That guy's maybe 180 right now, which is absolutely wild. How was day 1 for you? How you feeling, my friend?
Day 1 was great. Honestly, I was really, really excited to be out there. I thought it was, I don't know, not surreal, but it was just crazy to see Justin Fields and Russell Wilson and, all the other same cast of characters that we know, but Patrick Queen out there too. Just all these offseason additions finally in black and gold. Talking to Nick before we started recording, he was like, man, this is like all those jersey swap edits that you see during the offseason before these guys actually get signed. It's like they come to life and they're actually standing on the field in front of you. So it was fun to be out there, fun to see them actually work and actually play a little bit of football. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was, it felt, I think the weather helped, but it was nice to go out there and look at it and say, this is football. This is nice. We are officially back. I felt like rookie minicamp being inside. You were kind of like, all right, this is nice, but nothing's really going on. Yesterday, it was like, this is a Pittsburgh Steelers. Even walking into the locker room, like it was cool. I was telling my fiance yesterday, I was like, it was weird. It was like the first day back to school. Like you walked in, you're talking to all the guys for the first time. You're like saying what's up, asking about the off season, so on and so forth. And then you're like, oh, I have a job to do. I should actually ask you some serious questions. But a lot came from yesterday. There was plenty of takeaways. I think the biggest one, obviously, is all the cameras, all the mics are on Justin Fields, and he lets it be known that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a quarterback competition. Quote saying, I'm taking it day by day. I'm definitely competing. Russ knows that. We're out there competing against each other every day. Him being out there helps me get better, and we're pushing each other. So I definitely don't have the mindset of sitting all year. So I'm coming in here every day and giving it all I've got and pushing him to be the best, and he's pushing me to be my best. I mean, up until this point, you could speculate about a quarterback competition. You could look at it and say, all these people are talking about, oh, Justin Fields might take over the job for Russell Wilson, but everything coming from the Pittsburgh Steelers was Russell Wilson will be the starter unless proven otherwise. Justin Fields is looking at it like, well, I got to prove otherwise. Your thoughts you were there, you were in the scrum. Your thoughts when he said it and what it means for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, I don't think it was surprising at all to hear Justin say this stuff. I think he's a very confident guy. I think he has every right to be too. And so I wasn't shocked at all to hear him say these things, to say that he's fully invested in the competition, that he is going to make it a competition pretty much whether the Steelers like it or not. His goal is to, I guess, make things a little bit uncomfortable for them, make them make a hard decision, make Russell Wilson kind of prove that he deserves this starting job. And I mean, it's only going to make this team better. I think you don't bring in Justin Fields unless you think that he has a chance to be a starter for you. And while I think Wilson is kind of, again, that pole position term that Mike Tomlin used earlier in the offseason, I don't expect Russell Wilson to lose the job, but I think you appreciate Justin Fields coming in and having a sense of confidence right now about, yeah, we're competing, we're making each other better. I have just as much of a right to try and earn this job as Russell Wilson does. Look, like Wilson obviously has the experience on him, but Fields isn't a rookie, man. This guy isn't new to this. He's been a starting quarterback in the NFL. He's had a little bit of success. So I think he has every right to be just as confident. He has every right to believe in his talents and believe that he can show what he's got and that he's capable of winning that competition. Just how open it is at this point, I'm not sure, especially just because of how limited the practices are right now. It's I think it's going to take a little bit for this thing to really open up to really look like a real competition. But
Yeah.
I mean, they're splitting reps down the middle. They're taking turns. I mean, Wilson's clearly the number one guy, but the Steelers aren't coddling Justin Fields. They're not hiding him in the background. They're going to give him his reps and give him his chances to show that what he's capable of.
Yeah, I think that I'm glad that Justin Fields wants this to be a quarterback competition. I'm glad that he's not coming in here with the mindset of I'll be a backup and I'll learn. And I hope at the same time that he has realistic expectations that chances are he is a backup and he has to learn for a season, because hopefully Mike Tomlin has laid that out for him and said very clearly, look, you will be the guy who right now is viewed as the number two. If you go in there and show us that there's no reason you shouldn't be the number one, maybe that could change. But, I don't want this to turn into quarterback controversy. And I think it has, it has the makings of it if things aren't handled properly from Mike Tomlin's side of things. That being said, he usually does handle these things the correct way. So hopefully that turns into nothing. From Justin Fields' side, I love the spark. I love that he's coming out here and he's ready to be the guy in Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh Steelers fans should want him to be the guy in Pittsburgh, that he should be the dude who, yeah, Russ is exciting and he's a veteran and he's proven himself, and this is the guy that maybe you have the best shot to win a Super Bowl with, but Justin Fields could be your future. Justin Fields has a ton of potential. Justin Fields is a first-round pick 4 years ago. This is not a guy that, is a nobody. This is not somebody the NFL has given up on. It's just somebody that the Chicago Bears have given up on because of where they currently stand. I will say that what was very interesting is as Justin Fields is talking, and you guys are all in the corner, I was not in the Justin Fields scrum. I was making my way through the locker room. Justin Fields is over at his locker. Everybody's talking to Justin Fields. And our offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, comes walking into the locker room, goes right up to Russell Wilson. Him and Russ sit down at their locker, and they start talking about whatever for 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. And I'm just sitting there thinking, that's an OC who's working with this quarterback right now to see where they could go from day one and how they can improve. So I think, right now, Justin's got a lot of work to do, a lot of ground to make up, but I am excited that, he's open to a competition. He wants this to be a competition.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point about Mike Tomlin handling it correctly, because if you let this spiral out of control, if you let kind of too much doubt kind of creep into the locker room or into anyone else's mind, I think that can be a problem. But like I said, this is Wilson's job to lose. So as long as Mike Tomlin kind of tempers expectations, says, yeah, Fields will have his chance, but we really believe in Russell Wilson, I think that's fine. And you want competition, you want iron sharpening iron and everything like that. You want guys to get pushed, but you don't want any of the faith in Wilson to waver, and you don't want it to look like you are maybe bailing on him before he has a chance to really show everyone what he's capable of. So it'll be tricky. It's difficult managing of personalities, but it's not Mike Tomlin's first rodeo. This is not the first time he's ever had to do this. I think he knows how to run PR. He knows how to run a public face of the franchise and
Yes.
of the decision making before, while maybe other stuff is kept more under wraps.
Do you think at some point Justin Fields gets all right, we got to give Justin a real look here to see if he could be the guy? You think at any point that happens this summer?
Yeah, I do. I mean, like I would be shocked if he doesn't end up taking a handful of first team reps, if he doesn't get a healthy amount of those. He's going to get plenty of preseason action. He's going to get time to work in with the ones and show what he can do against a first team defense and everything like that. Like, I think watching him yesterday, I think there were a couple times where you just thought, okay, he's running with the 2s or the 3s right now. Like, this is a team that's in their first day of practice. Like, it doesn't look super cohesive. And I think I'm really eager to see what he can do when he's playing with the ones, when he's running with the first team, to see what he can do in that environment. And also, against a first team defense, what can he do against similar levels of competition? So I think he does. I think it would be, I don't know, irresponsible is a pretty heavy word, but I don't think you can let Justin Fields just kind of sit on the bench. I mean, I think he's too talented to not at least explore what you've got there. So I expect him to take, some first team reps later in the summer, and for them to, just do their due diligence, do their due homework about everything that they've got at their disposal on this roster.
Yeah, I agree. I think that at some point Justin gets a day or a couple of days where he's the 1, Russ is the 2, and they see what they got. And I don't know if that's I think it's a remember when Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph were getting days as the 1, but everybody in the locker room knew Mitch was the guy and he was the starting quarterback. And I think that could be the situation here. But I think, instead of Mason Rudolph, who had zero opportunity in Pittsburgh, and Kenny Pickett, who they were by no means going to give the starting job to that early in the offseason, Justin Fields is a guy that they could, he could come out here and be like, oh, okay, look at that. Justin Fields, he deserves to continue these days and have more opportunities, and they'll see where it goes from there. But I agree with you. I think that it's irresponsible is a good word of just, you gotta give every opportunity to everybody to see what they can do, because you cannot miss out, especially the quarterback position. It's the biggest question in Pittsburgh, and if they miss on it, it's the difference between a Super Bowl contender and a team that's just squeaking by and hoping to make the playoffs or missing the playoffs, depending on how they go. I want to dive into day one takeaways before we talk about one guy being out there, another guy being out there. Day one takeaways at OTAs. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm much more optimistic about the group of pass catchers that they have in this room, more than I was kind of entering the day. And I think, it's pretty simple, but I thought, Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson, I thought had pretty good days. Just watching them, I was pretty impressed with, their chemistry with Wilson, and, they caught some nice passes. They are also, I think, more than anything else, they just have some more size than I thought they did. I think when they were bringing in all these guys who figured to be slot receivers, I was like, okay, another, short guy who can play the slot and can maybe be a wide receiver 3, like awesome. Like this still kind of handicaps Roman Wilson, still kind of handicaps Calvin Austin. I don't know if that's really going to fit. I don't know if they have every piece that they need. But, you saw them split out Van Jefferson. You saw them split out Quez Watkins a little bit. You even saw them use Pat Freiermuth as kind of an outside receiver at a bunch of times as well. So I think that was really interesting. I think I have a lot more faith that this receiver core can work out. I'm still, I still think that trading for a veteran or adding a veteran is probably their best move if they really want to be certain about it. But yeah, I kind of understand the logic a little bit more. I can understand why they brought in this group and why they think that this group can work. I think I have a better understanding of the profile of these receivers, I think, now than I did coming into OTAs.
Yeah, it was nuts to see. I was standing next to you because I showed up late yesterday, and I'm standing next to you, and I go, yo, who's number 16? And you're like, that's Quez Watkins. I was like, dude, that's triple the size of Quez Watkins. What are you talking about? That guy's not 5'6". He's like 6'2". So it was good. I agree with you. I think the pass catchers looked much more impressive. At least, no pads on. I understand that. You got to see stuff in training camp. But day one, you looked at it, you said, all right, this is a group that at least they're doing something. George Pickens looks really good. Roman Wilson looked good. He didn't really look the greatest as an outside guy, but he looked good on the inside guy. Pat Freiermuth is ready to take a step forward, I believe, and I have a lot of high expectations for Pat Freiermuth this season. And at the same time, you still got Calvin Austin, like you said. You still have Connor Hayward. I was talking to Calvin Austin afterwards, and he was telling me that he worked a lot this summer with Deontay Johnson and his wide receivers coach and George Pickens, and just understanding the game and understanding route running a lot better and kind of developing that. He said that he learned probably more this offseason than he's learned in any offseason that he's had throughout football. So I think that is very promising. I think Calvin Austin's a guy that could step into a much larger role this year. But I agree. I think that the wide receivers, I don't want to say gave me optimism. I think it's early to say optimism, but I think I agree with you that they, I was expecting a lot worse. I was expecting it to be like, this is going to be rough. They got to go get somebody. And it's like, okay, for right now, I understand it. But at the same time, I agree. I think they go and get somebody. They need to go and get somebody. Mike Tomlin said it yesterday. He said, yeah, we're open to adding to a wide receiver. We're also open to adding every other position. It's like, no, you're not, dude. You're just open to adding a wide receiver. That's the only position that you are open to adding, except for maybe corner. And they have options there. They don't have many at wide receiver. I could see them still adding there, but I agree. It wasn't a terrible day. I'm going to go the other side of the football. I thought Dante Jackson and Joey Porter Jr. looked really good as the starting corners. I liked that they were interchangeable. I like that this wasn't just Joey plays one side, Dante plays the other. We're going to work both sides to make sure that everybody knows how to operate both sides, allow Joey Porter Jr. to follow guys like, Jamar Chase or Stephon Diggs or Amari Cooper or whoever and work the side of their strongest wide receiver against opponents. I think that that's very important for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. I liked how good they looked. I didn't know what to expect from Dante Jackson coming in here. I didn't know how good he'd be. I didn't watch, it's hard to say that you've watched much Carolina Panthers film on anybody over the years. So you did a little bit of homework, or I've done a little bit of homework once they acquired him, but it's still like it's tough to look at a guy and say, you're on an awful team. How good can you possibly be? I think coming in here, he looked, it's hard to say impressive, with the wide receiver core that the Steelers have, but they just looked smooth. They looked confident out there. Anthony Averett looked confident. You had, Deshaun Elliott, I thought fit right in and played well in coverage, which was good. DeMonte KZ as well. I just thought the secondary was very smooth yesterday for a new group with guys that I guess you didn't know what to expect from.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Dante Jackson, because that seemed like when he got acquired, and I mean the public narrative or the public face that the Steelers were putting on was, oh, we wanted Dante Jackson. This wasn't about Deontay at all. And I really still don't believe that, but I still think that Dante Jackson can be a valuable player for this team. And I thought right away, I was like, this guy has starting experience. He's been a starting corner in the NFL. He's had some success.
Yep.
Why is this not, why is this not a good move? Why is this not a good addition? And it seemed like people were really skeptical about him. But I love the athleticism, the speed, and everything like that. And as long as he looks, fluid, like you said, as long as he fits in with Joey Porter, as long as he's got a little bit of versatility and isn't just kind of a one-trick pony, I think you got to feel really good about that. And it's only day one, but you got to feel good about what you saw from Dante Jackson. Cause I think, look, if they haven't made another move at corner yet, they don't have a ton of experienced guys behind him. It's pretty risky if Dante, they're in a bad spot if Dante Jackson doesn't work out. I'll say.
I agree. I thought it was funny. I mean, I got two parts here for the corner, but I thought it was first funny. Dante was talking to just 3 or 4 of us after in the locker room, and the words that came out of his mouth at one point, he was asked about, like, hey, it's a wide receiver for a cornerback trade. Like, usually people look at it and say, hey, we got a wide out. That's super exciting compared to, oh, we got a corner. Cool, but he plays defense. It's not as flashy. And Dante's reaction was, yeah, I know Deontay was a fan favorite here. And I was like, nah.
Hey, yeah, I don't know if I'd say that.
I wouldn't say fan favorite. I would say that, the All Steelers Talk podcast did their best to defend him, but I don't know about the words fan favorite. The other side of that, Patrick Peterson went on the Jim Rome show yesterday and said that the team he still wants to sign with is the Pittsburgh Steelers. That door's still open for you? Are you even considering Patrick Peterson?
Not at this point. Not right now. I mean, maybe down the road if Dante Jackson ends up stinking and we're wrong, or I'm wrong and he ends up not being a valuable piece, then that's one thing. But I don't think Patrick Peterson's going to get snatched up anytime soon. So I think you wait until you absolutely need Patrick Peterson before you go get Patrick Peterson. It's not a move I think they need to make, especially because, I don't know, you know what Patrick Peterson is. If you want to go get someone else, I think that you can explore some better options first in the trade market or something like that before you just go with a retread of a guy that didn't really work out for you. I mean, Pat Pete was fine, but like, I think you're looking for an upgrade. There's a reason you haven't re-signed him yet. And so, I don't think you go reaching for him too early.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's not even, I don't even know if an upgrade is possible. It's just at 33 years old, you just fit in with the rest of the options. You're just part of the options. And cool, but if there's a 26-year-old option out there, a 27-year-old option, if Cam Sutton's an option that the Steelers are actually considering, if Corey Trice looks good, these are, the longevity of these guys is going to last a lot longer than the 17 games that you got left in your NFL career as Patrick Peterson. And that's no discredit to, Pat P is a Hall of Famer. He was the best corner of his generation, I believe. But, 33 years old, at some point, everybody's got to just realize that your market is not very high because of your age. And I agree. I think right now the door is shut for the time being. Now, I could see him coming back in July, early July, or even during training camp. I think the first opportunity goes to Corey Trice to say, hey, what can you do in year 2 when you're healthy? How good can you look? If Beanie Bishop looks good too, okay, cool. At least we got 2 guys there. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I'm running an NFL team, if I'm giving a 7th round rookie who missed another season due to an ACL tear, the first shot and the only shot to say, hey, let's prove it here. But again, I think that there are options on the free agency market right now that You don't have to rush to sign anybody. You don't have to go get Patrick Peterson because nobody's calling Patrick Peterson. Nobody's called Stephon Gilmore so far. I mean, maybe they did, but at 33 years old, 34 years old, these guys aren't looking to sign today. They're not looking to go through all of training camp and OTAs and, nobody's looking to go live in a dorm in Latrobe for a whole month. That's just not what these guys are going to do. So in a month, if you think, hey, look, we got to go make a signing, I think there's going to be options. I think things will be just fine. And in the meantime, you get to see what you got. It's just this. It's the same thing as the Cam Hayward thing yesterday with Mike Tomlin saying, we don't really need Cam here. It actually benefits us not to have Cam here. That's it. Patrick Peterson doesn't need to be at OTAs. Stephon Gilmore is a guy who wouldn't need to be at OTAs. You need younger guys that need to fit into the team, and you got to see what the rest of this group has. So I agree. I don't think that's a concern for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You put any stock in Broderick Jones and Troy Fautano playing the right side, Dan Moore playing the left side? At what point are you just like, okay, could we see what the actual starting offensive line is going to look like this season? How long do you wait for that?
Yeah, I think the only stock I put into it is that Troy is taking a minute to kind of learn the playbook and everything, because I don't think they would have him playing a backup role unless he still had some learning to do, and that's not a knock against Troy. I mean, it's his first official practice as a Pittsburgh Steeler, so he's got a ways to go. He'll be all right, I think. But I think it just shows that it's kind of a learning process for him. This is more about where Troy's got to be and less about, honestly, I think what Dan is doing or what even Broderick is doing.
Yep.
I just, the only thing I question about it is I don't think Dan is playing left tackle next year or this coming season, whether or not Troy is ready. I think you just got to move Broderick over to the left side, and I think because that's where he's going to play the rest of his career. So I think you got to live with whatever Dan can do at right tackle, and it's kind of
it's nothing. It's a strong nothing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But he's got to either learn that position or you got to move on from him, because if Dan doesn't have that versatility, I don't see what the point in keeping him around is, because Broderick has to be your left tackle.
Yes.
That's just the way I'm looking at it. Is I'm not going to take Broderick out of his natural position to make Dan Moore look better.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want Dan Moore to get those reps at right tackle. I want him to experience that. I want him to kind of, I don't know, he's got to develop into a guy who can play both sides, or else he doesn't really have a future in Pittsburgh. And if he doesn't have a future in Pittsburgh, then I don't know, he really shouldn't be out there at all, to be quite honest.
I agree. When he said yesterday that he's just not comfortable playing the right side, my thought was immediately I think Dan Moore is a great mentor. I think Dan Moore is a good veteran to have on the roster to help Broderick Jones, to help Troy Fautanu. He's a selfless player. I like Dan. I think Dan's a locker room leader, a good guy to have on the offensive line. He'd be a really quality backup if he could learn how to play the right side of the offensive line. But just like you said, there is no future. You can't even keep a swing tackle who could only play one side of the line. That's not a swing tackle. That's a left tackle. That's all it is. And you need a backup swing tackle. Otherwise, you got to start testing guys like Spencer Anderson, and I'm sorry, but Troy Fautanu should be you didn't start. Broderick said it yesterday. You didn't draft Troy Fautanu in the first round to sit on the bench. That's not what you did. You drafted him to be an impact player, to be a franchise piece of this offensive line, along with Broderick Jones. And I mean, those are your guys. So let it rock. Stop wasting. Stop holding back for. I get it. He's got to develop, but for longer than you need to. At some point you have to look at Troy Fautanu and say, all right, you're going to go to right, Broderick, you're going to go to left, Dan, you're going to have to figure this out. Because that's what it comes down to. Is Dan's got to figure it out, and if he can't, you got to look for other options, which stinks because I do think Dan is a really quality backup tackle. And I think he's a better option than Spencer Anderson and Dylan Cook, but he's not if you can't play the right side. If you can't play the right side, you're not gonna go into week 7 or 8 and Broderick Jones needs a week off because he's dealing with whatever, and you got to move Troy to the left side, and then Dan or the other way around. Troy needs a break, and you got to move Broderick to the right side, and then Dan to that's just ridiculous. That causes way more problems than it needs to cause. You need to be able to play both sides of your Dan Moore Jr. And again, I love Dan. I think he's a great locker room guy. I think he's a great mentor. I think he is as selfless as they come for a guy who is year after year competing to just save his job. And unfortunately, this is the year where there are no more options. You gotta learn the right side, or it's not going to work. to go off of that, one guy there, one guy not there, who OTAs, blah, blah, blah. There were two names that everybody was looking for to show up or not show up at OTAs. One of them showed up. One of them didn't. The person who did show up was an hour late, but Mike Tomlin said that, don't keep attendance. Too late, Mike. Everybody kept attendance. This is OTAs, man. Everybody's keeping attendance. Najee Harris came jogging onto the field about an hour into practice. Mike Tomlin said, that's cool, personal matters. It was excused by me. Meanwhile, Cam Hayward, nowhere to be found. Called out the reports that he, told the Steelers, or that he chose to, make it known that he was holding out on his podcast, and he is not there. You hold any stock in Cam not being there through day one and what Mike Tomlin said about it, and at the same time, Najee showing up an hour late but still being there. Good sign for the Steelers?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think Najee's like, a bad teammate or bitter or anything. I think he's if I don't know Najee personally, but if I understand his personality well enough, I think he's extra motivated,
yes,
if anything. I don't think he's the type of guy to kind of shrink or sulk if something doesn't go his way. I think he just kind of puts his head down and continues to grind no matter what. Yep. So I'm not surprised to see him out there. I was surprised when he didn't show up for about an hour there. I was like, wow, this is a real story. This is pretty significant. But he comes jogging out about an hour late. He doesn't do a whole lot, but I assume it's just a getting back into the groove type of thing. He's is similar to Cam and what you said about Patrick Peterson and a bunch of other guys this can apply to as well. But I'm not worried about Najee, getting his reps in or whatever. I think, maybe he needs to learn the offense a little bit, but I think Najee is smart enough and experienced enough to, look at a playbook and understand it, and he'll get his reps when he needs them. But for right now, I wasn't worried about him not being there, quite honestly, or showing up late, or kind of not doing a whole lot as far as his work on the field. Cam, kind of the same thing. I'm just not I'm not going to stress about Cam until, we get to, late August or anything. And if he's not on the practice field, that's when I'll get concerned. But for right now, I mean, Cam's got to do his thing. He's got to go through his negotiations. He's got to talk with the Steelers. He's got to, I don't know. And I think Mike Tomlin kind of had the right attitude about it, which is, look, Cam's got to do his thing, but we have an opportunity here to do some other stuff, to look some other people. Cam knows what he's doing, and we know what Cam is. We don't need any deeper of a look at Cam. We don't need him to refine his technique or anything. Like, Cam's good, and we know when he comes back, he'll be in the right shape. We'll know he will have been working out in his own as everything. So I'm not super concerned about Cam. I don't think anyone needs to be super concerned about Cam. The fact that he wasn't there doesn't tell you anything that you didn't already know.
Yeah, I'm not. I have nothing against like the Cam situation. We already knew it. Mike Tomlin, said exactly what needed to be said, and maybe it's not all truthful, but it is to some degree. Like, I don't think Mike Tomlin's worrying about it right now because there's nothing to worry about, and he's got 89 other guys that he has to pay attention to and focus on, so he doesn't have time to focus on Cam Hayward. And honestly, quite frankly, that's not his job. Like, it's not his job to sign guys or extend guys or work out contract. He gets a roster. He works with that roster. He has input on who they add or get rid of with the roster, but he's got nothing to do with, oh, okay, Cam needs a contract extension. I doubt he's in that front office saying, I don't know about that one, man. I think we're going to get rid of Cam after this season. I don't think those words will ever come out of Mike Tomlin's mouth. Najee Harris, on the other hand, I thought it was really good that he was there, because for a moment when he wasn't, and when you were sitting there thinking, this could be it. Najee's saying something. Like, I was more nervous about like what comes from that. Like, at that point, if you're not showing up to OTAs, it's whatever. But if you're not showing up to minicamp, now you're thinking, okay, do the Steelers move on from Najee Harris? Is this the end of Najee Harris in Pittsburgh? Where do they go from there? Jaylen Warren, that's your guy, but do you have a backup? Is Cordell Patterson good enough to be a backup still? Do you have to go get somebody? The wheels started turning, and then he ran out on the field, and you're like, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but sounds good. Have fun. Good. Glad that you're here. Shut down all those concerns, I think. So I think, just like you said, like it feels like he's just looking at it like, I just got to do what I got to do, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, and I think it's great that this is just a headache that we don't have to deal with, like us particularly, but the team as a whole doesn't really have to deal with the whole narrative of like, oh, is Najee unhappy? Like, is he disgruntled? Is he going to ask out? Is he, all that other stuff that comes with a holdout? You don't really have to worry about it all at this point, and that's That's really nice. That's just going into an off season without, or going into, practices and OTAs without really any drama to worry about. You can just kind of focus on the football. Is a pretty good feeling. And I think Najee, you were worried that wasn't going to be the case for a while there.
Yeah, could you imagine if day one, everybody's, what's good, man, dapping them up. You're giving, you're hugging some guys, asking about the offseason. You're so excited to see everybody again. It's first day of school vibes. And they're like, all right, I got to ask you about Najee not being here. Let's start the drama day one because we ain't waiting for nothing. Yeah, would have stunk. Glad he showed up. Cam, nobody's worried about Cam. Did you notice that there was no questions about Cam? Because nobody's worried about Cam. Nobody. With that said, we're going to head to day 2 here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your audio podcasts. Go find our new YouTube channel, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk, clips for even more of this show. And we will be back tomorrow. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.